Okay, here's the four pillars of the State Assembly. You got the General Assembly, the International Business Assembly, the Jural Assembly, and the Militia Assembly. So the General Assembly is comprised of both state nationals and state citizens, provides a discussion and decision forum for interstate business, acts as a committee of the whole to decide issues of general interest, conducts elections, provides oversight for all assembly functions. So generally speaking, it's a public meeting. We have our General Assembly meeting at the moment. We have it on, it's a conference call, and we do it I think it's every second Thursday, if I've got that right. No, actually it's not every second Thursday, it's every 2 weeks, and it's on the calendar. And anyone is invited. US citizens are invited, people who don't know what their political status is, everybody's invited, including state nationals and state citizens. Because that General Assembly supervises the other three pillars. That's important. So if the General Assembly wishes to conduct any private or sensitive intrastate business, you can divide the agenda and close that portion of the meeting to include only state nationals and state citizens, right? That's how you can handle that. All state nationals and state citizens must be allowed to attend all General Assembly meetings. They're scheduled and posted in advance. It's a good idea to adopt rules of order for the conduct of meetings. So here you're getting kind of a nuts and bolts of how we're going to build this. Publication of an agenda at least 2 weeks prior to all regularly scheduled meetings is also highly recommended. So here's the subcommittees of that General Assembly committee. Produces educational materials and programs for the general membership public. That's what we're doing here today. This is definitely what we're doing. New member orientation, support and education guidance for new members. Events committee. I want to go back to this new member orientation. This is, I encourage you to spread this link around and invite your friends to come to this. This new member orientation is the prerequisite course for all other educational courses that will be offered through the Oklahoma Assembly. So it's helpful because you don't want someone to, it would not be helpful for a state national to just change their status and then return to the woods from whence they came. Because an American state national does not owe anything to the Civil Republic, but the Civil Republic is not going to run itself. And so it requires state nationals to step forward and accept the duties and obligations of service and to operate in their capacity as a state citizen. So our hope is that new member orientation will tell you, what can be done out there and give you ideas for how you'd like to participate. So moving on, the events committee plans and executes events, meetings, and election setup. This is Sarah Pierce's committee. The records committee assists and oversees recording secretaries. This is what Sally Minnis and Josh Dolans are a part of. You've got the treasury committee. And then the oversight committee, forum for complaints. And the ombudsman committee, that's a new word for me, provides conflict resolution and arbitration services. Nobody wants to go to court, especially nobody wants to go to court and be represented by an attorney. So that's what the ombudsman committee is really helpful for. It just provides a conflict resolution. So nobody has to go to court if you don't want to. It's always good to settle it in the private. The vetting committee, they approve membership and review candidates' eligibility for state citizenship service. And then the general elections committee handles notices and candidate publications, dates, promotions, participation elections, etc. Office of the Martial Arms ensures safety and decorum at all meetings and events. Caretakes the flag, works with the elections committee to secure ballots. Okay, moving on to the next assembly, the International Business Assembly, composed entirely of state citizens. Conducts the international land and international business of the interstate business of the assembly. It's required to be set apart to have no allegiance or connection whatsoever with any other foreign nation or entity, i.e. the United States, Inc. It records additional paperwork to verify this to be true. Let's say that you're in the business assembly and you're making some business decisions in the international land jurisdiction, and it becomes apparent that you still have a professional engineering license, or you still have a doctor's license, right? That means that someone from a foreign jurisdiction is giving you permission to contract, and that makes you vulnerable to influence. So they don't have to pay you money. All they have to do, they don't have to bribe you. All they have to do is say, well, if you don't make this decision the way that we want it, then you may have trouble operating your license in commerce. So that's why the state citizen status, state citizens record extra documents to put it on the record and give evidence that they have a single allegiance to their state, and they don't have an investment in any other arena aside from their state. And they also need to be a landowner in Oklahoma. You have to be 21 and a landowner. And so the business assembly meetings are relatively rare events at first, but become increasingly important as we get our state of Oklahoma unincorporated established. So the capital, the state of Oklahoma, is a member of the Confederation of States. Remember, we talked about that before, which today is being impersonated by the British Territorial Incorporated, the lowercase, the state of Oklahoma. It's got its own Dun and Bradstreet number. The Business Assembly receives its direction from the General Assembly. So I wanted to say this. So you got the states of America, right? That's the Confederation of States. This is all in the land jurisdiction, but it's operated by the Business Assembly, okay? And then you've got the territorial British government. It is incorporated. It is a franchise of the District United States Incorporated. It's got its own Dun and Bradstreet number. So that's the difference. And then you got the Business Assembly subcommittees, International Education and Security Committee. And I'm going to fast forward through these, but you guys can, this is accessible on our website. The Congressional Committee. Okay, going to the Jural Assembly. Pragmatically, populating our courts is the most urgent task. That's worth saying because that's always been one of the most important things that everyone's been learning about. We are concerned about how to protect ourselves. If someone tries to summon you into their admiralty courts or the maritime courts, if you don't have your own common law court on the land jurisdiction, American state nationals really don't have a choice. And we'd also like a court venue where we can actually make claims of trespass against people in the de facto government who are committing crimes against Americans. And you are not going to get the result you want going into their courts. So that's why we need to operate our courts. Provides court services, oversees the grand jury, the trial juries, officers and functions of the courts. Populated by state citizens whose allegiance is exclusively to Oklahoma. Jural Assembly meetings are special meetings and organized by the active members of the Jural Assembly. And they are all qualified jurors, able to serve on both grand jury and trial juries or officers of the courts. So later on, we'll get to the paperwork, the 928, the 1779 Declaration. Those documents not only get you out of the jurisdiction of, being presumed to be a U.S. citizen or being in the, lost at sea in the international sea jurisdiction or the maritime or the admiralty jurisdictions, it also qualifies you to serve as a juror. So it's double duty for that paperwork. So the subcommittees, you got the court venue committee, seeks accommodations for the courts to hold session, negotiates use of our public buildings, serves notice that our public courts are restored, invoking ex parte Milligan. So there are several states out there, maybe many states out there that have already served their ex parte Milligan notice to the state governments and the county governments, right? Saying basically what that says, the ex parte Milligan, is it says that we have assembled our Jural Assembly, we have a grand jury, and we have trial juries, and we are ready to staff our courts. And that is the remedy that was provided in the very beginning, that whenever we didn't have our courts, this ex parte Milligan is a way of us saying, we are ready to staff our courts, now you need to give them back to us. Oklahoma has not served that yet because we have not yet stood up our Jural Assembly. You can see why this is really important. So we need people to become familiar with common law and to volunteer as state citizens to serve in the Jural Assembly. The Law Education Committee, I'll probably be a part of this one, evaluates educational opportunities to familiarize members of the Assembly about our public law. Okay, when you have elected your own American common law at the county level, they can no longer process anyone claiming their state national status in that county. Right now, they ignore our state national status. Right now, you have to go to a lot of trouble to show them that you are a state national and you are not a trustee for the estate. You are not a U.S. citizen and you have been misidentified. You have to go to a lot of trouble to make sure that they don't suck you into their jurisdiction and get money out of your Sesta trust state, right? So when you get your state level American common law court set up, they can no longer process anyone at the state level either. Millions will seize back their purloined identities and their property, and these federal franchise courts will be reduced back to hearing actual maritime cases. So I read this in an article yesterday that after a certain case, I'm trying to remember, I can't remember the name of the case, but FDR and several other prominent members of these federal subcontractors, they got together with the Bar Association and they basically said, from now on, you're going to operate in maritime jurisdiction. We don't care what you do everything in maritime. So anytime that you go into those courts, if you ever find yourself in one of those courts, that's what they're operating. They're not operating common law. They're not operating anything else. They're only in maritime. And it's very fraudulent. And so that's another one of the things that we're having to clean up. We don't want any municipal courts on our land jurisdiction. They need to go all back to the, Washington, D.C., the District of Columbia. They don't belong here on the land. Okay, so jury pool committee develops pools of competent and eligible jurors, administers selections of jurors, reimbursement of expenses, other expenses related to maintaining and caring for jurors. Court oversight committee, necessary oversight for the public court system, ensure fairness, proper procedures, investigates claims of malfeasance, incompetence. The sheriff's committee works with the county sheriffs to evaluate and bring forward the concerns of the assembly county sheriffs to better assist them. They got the coroner's office committee and the litigation committee. We need this as well. When people have active cases going on, they need help. Now you got the militia special purpose assembly. All able-bodied members of the assembly between 21 and 65 are expected to actively support the militia in one way or another. So you could be active militia. You could be support. You could be supply, communications, administrative positions. They often meet before or after General Assembly meetings. Many also maintain a weekend schedule. So right now it's on our calendar. There is an all 50 assemblies militia meeting. I think it's at 5 p.m. on Saturdays. It might be every other Saturday, but it's on the schedule. You can look it up. So that work has already begun. We're starting to stand up our militias. And a lot of it's about emergency preparedness, which, a lot of us can relate to. So here's the special purpose committees. Membership committee, participation in the militia, understanding the militia's role and support of the militia's functions. This is something else. I mean, everyone, I'm sure you get the idea that the militia has become a kind of a four-letter word in recent, politically correct circles. And this is interesting. There's a guy, his name is Brent Allen Winters. He wrote a book that all of us are encouraged to read. It's called The Excellence of Common Law. So the author's name is Brent Allen Winters, and he teaches a common law course every Wednesday and Friday. You can sign up for, I forget how much it costs. It's not that bad. And he basically gives lectures on the common law. And I learned from him that the militia means the people. That the word militia is synonymous with the people. And I just wanted to make that clear to you guys. The word militia is synonymous with the people. And that's why all state nationals and all state citizens are expected to participate in the militia. Okay, you got one more, the provisions committee. Okay, so let's see, education committee. That's another overlap from my committee. You got the operations committee. Develops short and long-term goals for the state assembly. Militia evaluates the readiness, creates plans, acts as oversight for the militia. Operations committee. Okay, how to stand up a state assembly. Summoning the authority calls states into session. If you're wondering how this happened, we're going to get into this. The summoning authority calls states into session. This was completed by James Belcher, hereditary head of state of the Federation of States. This is the holding company of the international powers of each international land jurisdiction state. Volunteers from the states step forward. That's us. Volunteers are vetted as coordinators and begin organizing the work to be done. So coordinators are state nationals that are serving in the international capacity with the Federation of States. They are not state citizens. And whenever our state assembly is fully seated and fully functioning, the coordinator position will sunset. But they've got a really big job. Their job is to help us to build our assembly. That just do anything and everything to help us build our assembly. General Assembly is established. International Business Assembly is established. Jural Assembly and courts are established. I've got that in bold because it's really, really important. Assembly militia is populated and organized. Election of session officers and officials. Training and transition for officers. Training and transition for officials. Assembly process complete, coordinator position sunsets. Questions?